guys, and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if it's your first time. Stolen. So here we are again, Saturday, Leeds, and there seems to be a few different things going on.
Would you like to do first?
I certainly would. What is this about?
So we're campaigning about the Children's and Wellbeing and Schools Bill that's going through. Our concern is that, well, my concern anyway, is that it's going to make the most vulnerable children even more vulnerable.
Can you give us a bit more of a context on what the bill is about?
So the bill, there's three sections. The first section, which I haven't waded through, is about social care and protecting children who go through the social care system. There's also a section about schools. There's a section about home education. And I'm an ex-teacher, I'm an ex-parent governor, I work in voluntary with youth, so I care passionately about youth. And for me, kind of the two key things would be that if you've got a child in school who maybe they're being groomed, maybe they're going down the county lines route, maybe they're joining a gang, maybe they're just neurodivergent and suicidal at school, what it's going to do for them is it's going to limit, once there's a flag of this child is a safeguarding risk, they're not going to be allowed to deregister. So that child who's been groomed at school is not going to be able to deregister, even though obviously getting them away from the grooming would be the safest thing for them.
So you're saying that there is grooming that happens inside schools?
Yes, certainly, peers, at the school gate when people are walking to or from school, they're away from parents, so that can be a concern. The other concern I have is children with special needs who are in specialist schools. The person at the local authority can decide whether they're allowed to deregister or not. There are too few special schools, and there are a lot of children who aren't a great fit for that special school. So a friend who her son is mute, but he's actually intellectually very bright, how does the school help him? There aren't enough schools to help children with very precise needs, and so she's thinking about maybe she'll need to deregister her son because he will get a better education at home than he would in the school, but she can't deregister him without the local authority's permission. But there's no rules about who at the local authority is making that decision. So it could be an ex-teacher, it could be somebody with special school experience, it could be an admin person who just sits there and makes the decisions. There's no legislation. They're giving the local authority all this power, but there's no legislation in terms of safeguarding that. The parents have no appeal either. Once the local authorities say no, you can't deregister, that's it. They're not allowed to appeal. There's not allowed to apply again for 6 months.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, because the bit that I'm concerned about home education is the lack of socialisation for the kids. When I was growing up, school was about being social. The teachers didn't like it, but we had our times.
How often did the teachers say, you're here to learn, not socialise?
Yeah, I know, but it's your life. When you're a child, it's your life.
Yeah.
So I'd be really keen to see them actually. You just mentioned somebody, they're mute, but they're bright. I'd be keen to see them in a school where there's somebody that is able to actually represent in some way. I mean, mute doesn't mean they can't hear. So it's about a way of teaching that person has just as much a voice, which might mean they put their hand up along with everybody else, they get a chance, but they write it down or something. And that is due to, that can be done operationally by teachers, but it sounds like it's not happening.
It's not happening.
That's annoying to me.
There's a real lack of special needs in schools. Right. I mean, I was considered to be one of the teachers that was most clued into special needs in our school, and our school, I'm sure that we missed people who maybe now could be diagnosed, but for whatever reason, as a group we didn't recognise it, and that's really, really horrific, because my own child wasn't recognised, his special needs weren't recognised.
How large is the group? Let's just take Leeds as an example. So how many kids require have the requirement for special needs, or whatever the words are?
I don't know the statistics at the moment, but what I would say, going back to your socialising thing, most home-educated children, I would say, are special needs of some sort. They're neurodivergent, or they've experienced trauma, or whatever. A large number of us have tried school, and school hasn't worked, so we've removed them.
I could understand that in certain aspects, but the example you gave, I'm thinking, actually, that's a kid who can pretty much join in. They're intelligent.
But there's nowhere that will accommodate him. The school have told him, we can't accommodate your needs.
I do not get that.
So he's 7. She campaigned for months to get him into this special school, and he got there, and within 3 months they said, he's not going to make it all the way through to year 6 because we cannot accommodate him. At reception, he was already doing the work with the year 6 kids.
This is the point. This is the other point about schools. Schools keep bright kids down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which
my son was in the bottom 5/6 of his class when he was in year 3, year 4. They gradually realised and they moved him up. We ended up home educating him. He's now doing A-levels, and his teacher a few weeks ago said you should apply for Oxbridge. He was considered at the bottom level of his class because they don't recognise his special needs. I'm a teacher with a passion in special needs. I was aware.
Where has this all come from?
Don't know.
Where has this all come from? What's the context to it and the background as to how we have got to this position where intelligent kids can't be taught alongside their peers? Because when I was at school, we had 10 or 12 classes that were graded, and the intelligent kids went up to the top. How did we get here?
I think we do still have the streaming, but you will have children, for example, a child who has difficulty writing. If the teacher doesn't spot that they're having a difficulty writing, so for example, I was trained that if you've got a child and they're, and they're brilliant talking to you, but when they write 2 sentences and that's it, then that's possible that they're dysgraphic. A lot of teachers haven't had that training and don't know for it. That's what was happening with my child. He's dysgraphic, and all the assessment is done by how you write, and that meant that he was penalised. Once he got into the position where at secondary school they gave him a computer to learn with, to write his answers with, then he thrived. Then they saw how good he was.
My son had exactly the same. He hated writing. As soon as they gave him for his O-levels, he was allowed to use a computer, and he got the opportunity, and because it takes a little bit more time, he sailed through everything because they knew he was bright.
Too many schools, teachers don't have the chance to do that. The budget cuts under the last government meant that teaching assistants were lost, so the teaching assistants aren't in the classrooms to support the kids and spot what's going on. But if I can just go back to your question about socialising in home ed, that's a big concern that I was made aware of before we made the decision to home ed. But in my experience, socialising within home ed has been better. Because you can go along to workshops of a specific interest, so you find other people who are interested in that topic. You're also in the situation where at school, I don't know if you remember, you're at primary school, you have to draw an apple tree. Everyone is waiting for that red pencil. Everyone wants the red pencil, there's only one and there's like 10 kids wanting it. And you wait in the queue and you wait in the queue and then they pass it to their friend because they like them more than you. And you never get the red pencil and then you don't finish your work. Whereas in home ed, when we do workshops, we tend to have enough equipment for everyone to learn and not be having the battle over that. Or you've got the kids who's slow at getting changed, they're clumsy, they're dyspraxic. The rest of their class hate them because they're always late getting changed for PE and the class doesn't get out its break on time.
Is there another element though? Is there another... You're very proactive, you've got a big, long history in teaching at schools. You understand what they require, the proactivity of going out there and going, my kids must socialise and learn alongside others. And that gives them the social interactions, they learn the social skills along it. They might get bullied, they might defend themselves as well. It's all part of socialisation.
And they learn from kids who are older and kids who are
How
younger.
many people who decide to do home ed don't do any of that, and they just want to have the kids at home with them the full time?
So the most common thing is a kid who's been severely traumatised in school and has kept going and has kept going and has reached breaking point. And very often those are the kids that can't leave the house. Those are the kids where parents offer, so parents will offer, would you like to go and try the bowling today? Would you like to go and try the trampoline park? There's a workshop on animals, owls up at Harewood House. There's a workshop there. Would you like to go to it? So the parents offer the children, but sometimes those children are so broken,
Anxious,
are so hurting,
scared,
scared,
stressed at the idea of being alongside other people because of what's happened.
Yeah. And and if you've got a kid who's naturally more introvert anyway, school is just torture for them. And I've seen kids who have been really worried about where they are socially, and they've struggled for a few years, and then they hit kind of 13, and they meet kids who they get on with, who they click with, and that's it. But they have the opportunity to go to places and meet people, and so we have networks. We have people who arrange like a trip to the cat cafe for kids who are particularly into what's the Japanese art form called? I can't think what it's called, but people who are into that, they can go there, or people who are particularly into Magic the Gathering or Warhammer. They can meet together and socialise. So the really quiet people can meet other people who are like them.
You see, when I was at school during the 1980s, throughout the late 70s, throughout the 80s, we had everybody there. And everybody found their niche. And a lot of the time, if somebody was being bullied, other people would notice it and they would stop the bullies. And it brings people in and out of their shell. Now, I don't know about the trauma type of things that you're talking about. I can't talk about that. But, I mean, everything's ups and downs, and I'm really wondering, where have we gone wrong over the past 30 years that we're in this position now, instead of having everybody together in school?
I think some of it is, I'm probably a little bit younger than you, but when we were at school, teachers were able to teach what they thought the kids in front of them needed. It was arguably, some people would say, it was too free. The national curriculum came in. I really like that it insists that every child has to have a broad thing. I think that's really healthy, especially in the younger years, that children have breadth. Some kids really struggle with that because they know they want to go into computing, and why have I got to do flipping biology when I want to become a computer scientist, or whatever it is. Some people many people haven't got a clue, even age 50, haven't got a clue what they want to do with their lives. Some kids know from the beginning.
You're right.
But I think that the changes, certainly in the last 15 years, in terms of the pressure put on kids academically, so the pressure, that the government, was it about 2014, 2015, I think, they rewrote all the levels and basically they moved everything down a year. So what children before that were learning in year 4, children in year 3 were expected to learn. Okay. And they were basically given 2 years options. That puts a lot of pressure on kids. Mine were fine, they were bright. Okay. But the kids, it's really hard.
I mean, that's aiming at the curriculum, the stuff that's written down, but you touched on something which was about the teachers. What's happened to inspiring teachers that can actually grab the kids in the way that they explain why people are learning this stuff, as to, you need this in order to get there, you need this to get a wider understanding. Where are the inspiring teachers then? Because it sounds like we've lost a lot of them and they're just hiding behind a curriculum.
Yeah, a lot of left because they couldn't cope with the work conditions. A lot have left because they just. So when I was teaching, I really liked what the decisions were being made by the government at the time, and it was very much about teaching children how to learn, teaching children how to think, giving them freedom to experiment. And I really felt like education was going in the right direction in the 2000s. Mm-hmm. And then Mr. Gove came in, and he wanted to bring everything back to the 1950s. I don't know if you remember, he very repeatedly said, when I was in the 1950s, we learnt everything by rote, and these kids should learn everything by rote.
He wasn't even alive in the 1950s.
We got rid of the opportunity to think and experiment and create, which, by the way, Britain's second largest export is music, right? It's the creative thing is what Britain sells on. It's our biggest export. And he got rid of all that, and you must sit down and you must learn all these dates for history, and you must be able to regurgitate them, and you've got to sit and learn by rote instead of experimenting, instead of being creative. And that has really limited the children. It's also really limited the staff, and it's unfair on kids who maybe they aren't good at memorising, because suddenly every subject was full of memorising. I think pretty much everybody that I did my teacher training with has left teaching.
You see, memorising is such a bad way of doing it. Because people have to visualise it, people have to understand it, people have to be able to talk about it and connect something to something else, and it opens it up into a much bigger horizon. Memorisation is just regurgitation. That's not intelligence.
We have computers in our pockets. What we need is teaching kids how to analyse what comes up on Google. Teaching them to realise, hang on, there's a mistake here on Wiki. Teaching them to tell the difference between The Guardian and The Telegraph and the random person on YouTube that they've come across. These are the things that our children most need, because they'll all have phones, they'll all have internet access. I mean, I can't think of many jobs where you couldn't I'm just going to double check that fact.
It's the word fact is really interesting, because I see a lot of stuff that's coming out as indoctrination.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like propaganda.
Yeah.
So anyway, this has been a brilliant conversation. This has been brilliant. Thank you. We've moved away from just home education. We've covered education system and what is happening there. My name's Mondi Media.
Yeah, hiya.
Would you like to say your name for the camera?
I'm Angie.
Angie. Thank you very much. It's been really interesting.
Good. So where will it be?
On my YouTube account, Mondi Media.
Okay, fabulous.
All right.
Lovely. Thank you.
Take
care. See you.
Right, bye. So that was Angie, who is an ex-teacher wanting to get her kids into home ed. Lots of kids here having fun, scribbling all over the floor. Reminds me of the 1980s. Absolutely brilliant. You know, kids having fun. It'll get washed off in the next time it rains, so who cares? It is not graffiti, it is not vandalism. This is kids having fun. This is how it should be. It's how it was when I was a kid. Tic-tac-toe or whatever it was. And then we have Palestine.
Guys, it's been wonderful. You've been fabulous. You've been